Episode 7. Welcome back to another episode at Consciously Evolving Enterprises. As always, I am your host, Mr. Ryan Dillon Brassington. A quick introduction. Okay, so this is a series of true short stories where we have been exploring the scary paranormal happenings caused by unfortunate domestic events in the family home. These are all freaky stories of survival in a domestic violent haunted home, from the memories of people that with lived experiences and have been kind enough to share their events and stories with us. Some seeking to find a common connection to verify the truth, others tell their truth to find healing, to heal that inner child, and reconcile with a past long avoided, push away and shut down. With true tales they open the door where shadows linger in nightmares, memories, fragmented memories of a former life lived as a child, and the real-life monsters are the parents we are meant to love in that family home. Derik Durwood, 2001. The many animals that lived and died in our family home. One time we were at the BMX track and from nowhere this massive kick-ass lightning storm came thundering in, balls of bright green light sparking across the sky. The rain fell hard and quick, watching it rolling in from the distance. We stood there and watched in amazement, before realizing we needed to get home. Within seconds the creek begun flooding, rising quick in a flash flood. We challenged each other to risk rising raging waters, rather have to go the long way home over the bridge, likely getting stuck in the hailstorm at its hits, so we gather our muster and agree that we will risk it, crossing the murky flow of creek storm water. My sister Natasha the first to put her legs into the stream, then Pickle, then Kelly, and then I, all of us linking arms to prevent being swept away. Then what happened next is unbelievable but still true, shocking, a shocking experience, an event that when I am reminiscing to tell this story, it still gives me goosebumps even to this day. Then the storm hit. It was already above our heads, the creek rising faster by the second, dumping our bikes in a dash, not caring as they are swept away in the river, our linking arms holding tight, ever more tighter as we cross. The hard current and slippery footing has us gasping as we made it halfway. We are screaming at each other to hold on and keep safe, freaking out as we cross the river rampage of death. The creek is now fully raging white water, repeater style. I and everyone else can barely keep a grip. My sister screams out loudly and suddenly lets go, breaking the chain of linked arms, and we float apart and just have enough grip to slowly push forward across to the other side. Natasha screaming out, "I just felt something brush past my leg. I think it was an animal." The rest of us still in scurry for survival and try not to die, be drowned or swept away. Finally, Pickle, Kelly, and I make it to the other side. However, Natasha was still in the middle, sweeping around under the water, searching with the water with her arms wide open, racking through the water as she stood firmly fighting the flow, looking around for the thing that just brushed past her leg. We thought she was mad. We all started screaming, "Get out! Quickly, just get out!" And still continued searching for whatever it was. Her friend Kelly yelled out, "Don't fucking worry, it's probably a big dead rat, something like that. Just get out of the bloody water." The current flows faster and fast, almost losing her footing as she dives across the water, splashing her hands down, grabbing into the murky water and pulling up this small black clump of wet fur. We squint our eyes to try to see what the hell it could be. The black clumped ball of fur then went well, and Natasha screams out, "It's a fucking puppy." The small dog had somehow got in the water. Natasha raises it high above her head and makes her way to the side, safely out with a puppy in hand. She took the puppy home and cared for it all day and all night, trying to keep it warm and fed, but unfortunately, it did pass away late afternoon on in the second day. The many animals from cats to dogs and aquarium tropical fish. One of the first cats was a short-lived rescue found as we crossed the creek in a flash flood freak storm. My fondest family pet was a surprise when the old soul fox terroir appeared, dog at doorstep, looking through the screen past my mother and directly at me. We became best friend. His name was Pensioner, and I still feel guilty for kicking off my bed that one time in a night of summer heat. Sorry, old friend. After then or around his passing arrived two Rottweilers, massive dogs, scary dogs, insane dogs. The male Rottweiler chasing lightning strikes and thunder bolts up, down, and all around the back yard, and even one time getting his head stuck in the bathroom window. To be far, we believe it was a savior, as a candle had been lit in plastic cup and had burnt down to the window shelf, and the dog's head was stuck right next to it, so maybe he was trying to put it out, attacking the noise it made, or just wanted to get in. He did save the house from burning down that one time. The female Rottweiler was mental, absolutely nuts, consuming anything in sight, including the consumption of her recently birthed pups, of which I was the one to find and come to realize all the pups born yesterday are now gone, and I hear her crunching on bone. I run off of screaming. The dog has eaten her own. Good old Buster, the farting dog, the dribbler and long life liver. I was young when he met the end of his life, as I was told it was well lived, and he crawled under the house and quietly passed away. Not much longer into our childhoods we had to move to a bigger house. My sister were a bit older and wanted pups of their own, leading to incident after incident until we're allowed nothing but goldfish, thank God. The only dog I liked was Pensioner, and my sisters didn't know how to care for any of the animals, dogs and or cats, one of many to meet death by collision, hit at high speeds on a long dark semi-main road. Yet another dog found dead. Looking through a cluster of pit bull pups, I see one right up the back, still laying the dirt, not moving. I already knew, but my sister wanted me to attempted rescue, so into deep darkness of under the house, to finally find the pup, lifeless, with a can of dog food stuck tightly to its snout, cold and long dead. I could not remove the can with just my hands and had to crawl out with the deceased animal as it was. Seeing miscarried pups discarded into the waste bin, the backyard became a pet cemetery, and the grass grew fast and long, and thus when the guy next door came complaining and put the blame on us when his dog died from a snake bite, he was probably right. Worst of all was the pain of a Rottweiler's with its bowels coming out its butthole, perturbing. Poor thing gave itself a case of the world's worst hemorrhoids. The dog was put down. Also, my friends and I found a well-rotted, dried-up dead dog of half flesh and bones when we built up the courage to flip a discarded black garbage bag. So it wasn't before long our childhood backyard hard turned into a pet cemetery, with almost every inch having the decaying bones of a past pet underneath, the dirt below, the trampoline, the swings, the sandpit from the deconstructed pool, all had blood and bone within the soils. The nutrients must have been great for the yard because that summer it grew twice as high and we had the next door neighbor come banging on the front door. My mother answered and he crying, saying that we had killed his German shepherd, his beloved family pet. Sobbing he was angry, upset and pointing blame at us. He stated that his dog was bitten by a snake passed away and that the snake had come from our yard as he seen it slither off under the fence back into our yard. Well, I don't think we could refuse his claim as the grass in the yard was dramatically high and overgrown. The nightmares begun around then. I was around the age of 11 when the repeating nightmare of werewolf-like creatures attacking the house, half German shepherd dog, half monkey, part as lion, part baboon. Every night for months the dream repeated. First they would start to gather on the clothesline, jumping onto it one after the other until the anticipation grew. Then they invaded, smashing through windows, getting into the house and trying to kill us, rip us apart and eat us with pure hate in their hearts. They rejoice in the bloodbath and killing spree, all chirping and wailing with glee as they are feasting on limbs and torsos, grabbing what they can rip off and carry away in a scurry back out the window and broken doors. All I see is blood and gore. Then I awake. Sometimes the dream is shorter and the colors change, but it was always the same. It ended in death. The whole family eaten alive by werewolves, and not even I survived. I tried to put all the dreams and nightmares behind me when I found out we were going on a holiday, but it turns out I predicted one possible future. Luckily, as close as this was to reality, it didn't end the same as my dream and we all lived, survived and came home. The Barley Monkey Wolf. Told from a child's perspective. So after many years of promise, my mother and father had worked up the funds to take a long-planned and well-earned holiday to our chosen destination, Bali, Thailand. After we all hand-dreamt of boarding a plane and landing in Thailand, our family finally was doing exactly that. So came the day my father, my mother, my little sister, my older brother and I, excitably landed in the foreign lands of Bali, Thailand. Getting off the plane I instantly noticed the change in weather. Here the atmosphere was more humid, sticky, sweaty, hotter but no in sun heat. The heat was in the air. Arriving to cabin huts and living quarters, the welcoming was everything I had dreamt of, a weave of flowers. Dancing fire ceremony. The guy who showed us how to make jungle fire was very funny, joking that when it rains we can't cook the food, so we all just go to McDonald's. On the first day we settled into the cabin, and later in the afternoon we all joined the campfire and listened to the locals tell stories of monsters, spirits and dangers hiding in the jungles that surround us. We heard about the local jinns that haunt most of the old and abandoned buildings in Bali, and we listened to tales of spirits lurking around waterholes, but the one story that stood out the most was about the monkey wolf. The monkey wolf was a baboon-like creature that shared traits in its appearance of both wolf and monkey, having the head and mane of a wolf-like creature and the body of a baboon with a lion's tail, its teeth long, sharp, and its stare vaguely sees through, and the feeling of being prey becomes an overwhelming sensation. You are its prey. Its scream, a squalling noise of intoxicating sound, causes fear, and you left to respond with fight, flight, or left frozen, unable to move, unable to avoid the pending doom as this monster comes bearing down on you with mass and force. Its strength unable to be matched, for man would have no chance in surviving an encounter with might and anger of the monkey wolf. I went back to the family cabin and couldn't sleep at all most of the night. Outside of the cabin I could hear something moving within the trees outside. Something was jumping from tree to tree. That's when I heard whatever it was scream, "Mahahudit uit, Mahahudit uit, Mahahudit uit." I heard my father get up, so I got up as well. I watched him check outside as he peeked out through the front window with only the moon's lights reflecting on the canopy. My father was unable to see what was making all the noise and then shrugged it off and went back to bed. After all, we are in foreign lands and wild animals are or should be expected, right? I asked my father. My father was always great with words stated. After all, I have only ever seen one koala in the wild and had only ever seen one wild beast in captivity, so hearing strange animals shouldn't frighten you, it should excite you. This is a new experience and new things can be scary, and I'm sure that whatever is out there is local and native. We are just hearing it for the first time, so it's new and scary to us. And I'm sure we're fine, as I don't think they would put us out here if there was any risk of wild animal attacks. However, his words didn't stop the freaky animal noises and the obvious sounds of more than one large animal gathering around us. We then went around the cabin and turned off any and everything and stayed as quiet as we could, and eventually fell to sleep until sunrise, when all that could be heard was the calm forest of whistling birds and winds blowing through the canopy. This is the first night of 7, I think to myself before I could even open my eyes. Then a racing thought of these creatures outside last night could have been the monkey wolf that the tour guide spoke of the same night. I felt a sense of great dread that had begun to fester within my guts, this being only the second day of our family holidays. I was quickly distracted by the smell of a delicious breakfast, pancakes, fruits, and toast. The smell flooded the air with the morning breeze, bringing the smell of breakfast mixed with the fresh forest flowers. I couldn't help but let all worries drift away and welcome this new day. A new adventure awaits. After breakfast, I was excited to learn that we were going to tour the dunes by riding on the four-wheeler motorbikes today, and any thought of monkey wolves escaped me for the day. That was until I was swiftly reminded after dinner. During the sunset we were all enjoying, a wild scream came from within the jungle. It sounded painful, like it was being hurt. However, this was not the scream of a human. The following scream was weaker, and then we could hear a separate entity making deep thud sounds with its thought, "Good. Good. Good." Then before anyone responded, all noise had gone down to silence, like all sound had been sucked, and if anyone dared to speak, no sound would leave their mouth. So in fear, all that heard the screams and thuds stayed completely silent, as did the birds, the forest trees, even the bees didn't make a sound, until one man came from the back. Seeing everyone frozen and in silence, he asked, "Hey, what's going on?" And everybody just seemed to move on, as if it didn't happen. Well, bugger that. I'm asking more questions, confirming what I had planned in my own head. Otherwise, I just might crap in the bed, because I'll be hiding under the sheets all freaking night, holding a light and shaking with fear and fright. But every adult I asked brushed me off or pushed me aside. Even my father tried to calm my nerves, but he admitted to having no further explanation. The idea of the monkey wolf was resurrected. A monkey that looked like a lion started to paint the picture of what this creature might look like. However, imagine this creature the image of this vicious monster, this beast with fur and fangs, that I had conjured up within my mind was nothing in comparison to being up close to the real thing, as we would find out later that very same night. On the second night of staying at the wooden cabin, we were all having a hard time sleeping, not only due to the humidity being intense but also due to the increasing noises of the jungle moving, animals of the night coming out swinging, running, jumping, singing. The sounds echo through the jungle forest. Among the sounds and songs of smaller night critters there was the sound of larger beastie animals chirping, clucking, hooting, thudding tones. The emanating noises sounded as if they were swarming around us, with the increasing sounds of crashing branches and snapping twigs. All I could do was lay in the bunk bed with my sister below, listening to all the emerging commotion outside. I lay there knowing it was the monkey wolf, just as I had heard it that day. Now it's here, just outside. I swear that's it is. As the fan blew warm air around the room and I stared at the roof, I asked while still looking at the roof, "Sis, can you hear that?" "Yes," she replied instantly, and sounding relieved I was also awake. "What is the big thing moving through the top of the trees? It sounds like there's more than 1 inch." I really did not want to scare her, so I too said I am really not sure. I then leaned my head over the side of the bed and questioned with a positive tone, "Want to investigate?" "Yeah, all right then," she replied. "Are you frightened, sister?" my younger sister asked. "Yes," I replied with a smile. "Isn't it existing?" We both went to the small window between the bunks and slid back the corner of the blinds. At first there was nothing but darkness, then our eyes adjusted and we could see the forest was light with the light of the moon. We could see the canopy moving with the breeze. As we are gazing out into the forest, we see one of the trees shake suddenly, then the one next to it, then the next tree. Something was moving through the trees, jumping one to the next. In the canopy the tree shook and the shadow of leaves flying and falling became more clearer as we tried to focus into the darkness, trying to glimpse of what was moving about. However, there was no need to get a closer look as it was coming towards us, and what I had seen was already enough. Thud ting ting ting. Thud ting ting ting. Something was being thrown at the cabin, a rock or a nut. Something just hit the hut. Boom thud. This sound was the sound of my father getting up from his bed. Boom thud boom. Hearing him come down the hall with his heavy footsteps was a relief. My father without hesitation goes straight outside to investigate. We sneak up behind to join him, looking out the doorway and watch him step outside. My sister and I stand behind my father as he stepped forward out of the doorway and onto the small deck that surrounds the cabin. He stood there staring into the dark shadows of the forest jungle. As he stood there scanning the forest with his eyes, trying to any sight of the beasts that were chirping, shirking, clacking, and the smacking of the branch to tree, suddenly all the commotion in the forest went silent. The silence was frightening. It seemed everything in the jungle forest went quiet, no echo, no movement, not even the sound of the wind, and it's felt like even the sound our breathing has fallen silent. Then breaking the silence, a small fruit nut or small rock was thrown at my father. The object flew past my father's head, missing him by an inch, and hit the cabin with a thud. The sound gave my father a fright and he let out a squall of surprises. Holy shit, what was? He asked out loud. As he said this, the jungle lit up with sounds and noises. The beasts squawked and squawked again, and then more of the animals came from deeper in the forest and they all started throwing things at the cabin. My father came rushing back into the cabin, telling us to close the blinds and turn off all the lights. The wild beast continued to throw heavy things at the cabin. My sister and I went to the bedroom and peeled back the corner of the curtain. Peering out the window into the dark moonlit jungle forest, we could see one of the animals. Was this the monkey wolf? I asked myself. That's when I see it. One of the animals jumped forward into the light of the moon. I watched this thing lunged forward onto a long branch. Now in full view, my brain was trying to figure out what I was looking at. This thing looked like a baboon but had the face of a wolf. Its tail stood up and the tail was tipped with a fluffy fur. Although it was dark, I could see it was covered in a light brown fur. It gripped the branch with both hands and feet, balancing on this elongated branch, bending under its weight. I watched it then barked a violent sound to its left, and more of these beasts came, clapping, squeaking, banging and snapping tree branches as they all gather and begin to swarm the cabin. I watched 7 pairs of glowing white eyes gathered and stared back at me and my sister. The main one barked orders to the others as they creeped their way into the light of the moon. I could now see 7 of the brown white-eyed beastly animals jumping closer, making a loud commotion as they climb onto the roof, onto the deck. Bang, thud, bang, they were trying to get in. Then ting, 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 3 taps on the front window. Ting, 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 it sounded like something tapping the window with a fingernail. Ting, ting, ting. My father gathered us in the back of the cabin, way back from the window. We all stood there in silence, huddled together. The beast begins to hoot and thud all the walls, the roof. This bass tone hoot, grudge, grudge. Then a moment of complete silence. For a second we thought they might be moving off. Just as we begin to relax, suddenly with a shocking smash and boom, a massive ball of fluffy fur came crashing through the main front window. As this thing unrolled and now came face to face with this beastly creature, the creature screamed with an overwhelming quill. This thing started throwing the furniture. We were frozen looking at this thing, and was not a baboon, it was not a wolf. This beast had a thick wide mane of hair, sharply 555 pointed ears. The angry face resembled a possessed wolf. Its long thin tail looked like a lion's tail, its teeth sharp and salivating. Looking anything to eat, it searched everything it could. We then see 2 others peep in from the window frame, the elongated fingers gripping the broken window frame as the white glowing eyes peer into the cabin. My father jumps forward and closes the only door separating us. The beast begins to bang on the door. My dad smashed the back window and fed us out one after the other as quietly as he could. He then jumped from the window and we ran towards the tour guide's area. I pair back to the cabin, fading into the distance, and could still hear them trashing everything inside. We finally got to the tour guide's cabin and rapidly explained what happened. My father and he went back to the cabin where the monkey wolves had been. However, they were no longer inside or in sight. They had vacated, and the fear of them returning had us on edge. We were relocated to the other side of the island for the remaining days of our holidays, and I swear those things followed us. I could hear them every night outside. I slept with one eye open, awaiting the next invasion. That's the end of this one. Thank you for listening, reading, sharing. We appreciate you. See you next time at Consciously Evolving Enterprises.